Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Joint Airport Zoning Board to order. It's 5:04 PM on Monday, December 13th. First item of business on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the September 14th, 2021 meeting. Those were sent to you in an email dated September 15th. Any corrections or amendments to the minutes? If not, a motion would be in order to approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Any discussion? If not, motion to approve the minutes has been made. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Next item of business is under old business, and it is the review and provide comments on the draft zoning ordinance, and then to discuss the next steps moving forward. Do the members of the board have any thoughts on how they would like to review this document? Do you want to just go by individual, or do you want to do it by going through the actual document itself? I guess I'll leave that up to you as to how you would like to proceed.
Are you talking about a complete review of the document here this evening, or like breaking it down amongst each other for working on it?
I would have to defer to Mr. Stadheim as far as how he would see this
Sure.
action taking place.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and zoning board members, I think our thoughts today would be to absorb the comments that the board members have today, and we'll try to incorporate those. If there are no major comments and revisions that are needed, then we'd probably take the next step and get this up to the commissioner of the state and for review and continue with the process. But I think my thinking was today would be to receive the comments from the board, have our consultant implement those comments to the best of their ability, and then probably reconvene one additional time to have one more review before we send that up to the commissioner for review. But like I said, if we don't have many major comments here today, that would accelerate the process. But want to make sure each member has the opportunity to provide their comments, and then we can revise as necessary.
Do you have a preference, members, on how you would like to proceed?
Well, I think that, to review it here tonight would be a long meeting. There's a lot here.
Correct.
I've read through it. I probably need to read through it again. But, yeah, I think it'd be something that we would have to study on our own and then meet. And if members here haven't studied it yet, I don't know that. Well, that's my feeling. I mean, we go through it page by page, this would be a long meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Rosie, do you have?
I do not have anything specific. I think I had a couple of small questions that had to do with some of the definitions here, but in terms of the overall document, not right now. And I do wonder if this is something where a couple of us should work together through it, or if you already have comments. I don't have a lot, Joe.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily we have to have breakouts and do it that way. I think it'd be best served just
It's not that
each of you providing your comments, and we can get those incorporated. Yeah, if there are things you do have noted today, I would like to know them. That way I can get that back to the consultant for their revisions. However, having said that, there is one thing in particular I do want to discuss once we get a little bit further. But other than that, we can certainly have you guys review it a little more in depth, and then reconvene after the first of the year as well.
Well, I went through the document, and I have some remarks. I don't know, Keith or Tony, do you have anything in?
I had read it through. The only question I would have is anything different from the, what it was before?
So, good question, Board Member Berg. The main difference between this document and the existing ordinance is the crosswind runway. And we've proposed the zoning for the 927 alignment, which the existing crosswind runway and the 422 alignment, we don't have zoned right now.
Right.
We do want to zone for the 927, and that's the change that's in here. And then really just some minor cleanup items on the end of 15 and 33 off the primary runway. But other than that, it's bringing the document into today's standards and zoning for that 927. Other than that, the changes are, yeah, like I said, they're more kind of cosmetic to get it up to today's standards, but that is the main change is 927 and zoning for that crosswind runway.
Okay, Mr. Stott, question I would have with regards to the old ordinance. Are we rescinding that? Are we amending that? What action are we taking with that document?
It will amend and replace, the new ordinance will amend and replace the 1984 ordinance.
Okay. I think it would maybe be beneficial just from a historic standpoint to note the date of adoption of the original ordinance. I believe that took place back in
85.
1984, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I assume that at some place the date of the adoption of this ordinance would also be identified.
Right, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, once we get through the process, we're kind of on step 2. So once we get further along in the process, yeah, with that date would be identified and would amend and replace the 84 ordinance.
And I assume that there'll be, I noticed in going through the document that sometimes certain terms are capitalized and other times they weren't. And so that type of
Okay.
review would also,
You mean from like a legal orthography kind of thing?
well, an example is this ordinance is normally always capitalized, but there's some locations where it's a small o. So,
It's really small,
from
or
the
it's called
interest,
something a little different, yeah.
yeah, interest of consistency. If the board members don't mind, I'm just going to go through the items I have, and if that's, we can,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think, yeah, just let me know what page and what comments you have. I'll mark mine up. I'll compile all the comments within my document. That way we
Okay.
have one to share with the consultant.
on page 7, there is A1, and then small a and b. There's reference to the runways. I think it would be beneficial to cite an exhibit as to where one can view those particular runways.
Could you orient me to the page now? Is it 7 on the computer, or is it 7 on the page number?
7 of 24 on the ordinance page number. In your packet, it'll be page 11 of 45.
Got it.
Okay, then on page 9, and I'm always referring to document page numbers. On the bottom of the page, number 4, it talks about land uses which were in existence in these areas on January 1st, 1978. What is the significance of that date?
I would guess that's some federal date, but I'll have to get back to you. I don't know the significance of that.
Okay. And then we previously discussed that there are some boxes that need to be filled in with additional material, beginning on page 10. And then on page 11, up number 2 refers to Zone A, and prior in a prior location in this document, we also have Safety Zone A. Is there? I realize that may be their legal names, but is there some way to avoid
Consistency.
confusion?
Yep, I agree, yep.
And we have the same thing with Zone B. On page 15, under existing uses, capital B, the very last sentence says, except as indicated, all applications for such a permit shall be granted. What does that mean? I mean, if they're going to be granted, why are they being considered?
Sure.
Other than for documentation purposes, or?
I'll get back to you.
Okay. Then there's on page 16, there's reference to a Board of Adjustments, and the Board of Adjustment is identified as being the New Ulm Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission in New Ulm is a recommending body to the City Council. But it appears in this document that they are
They're the
a
final say.
decision-making body
Correct.
as well. And so I don't know if that's something you may want to review with the city attorney, just to make sure that
Okay.
that's appropriate.
Okay.
The other thing that comes into play is that the Planning Commission has to make decisions on their items within 60 days. And in this particular document, it talks about making decisions within 4 months. So,
okay.
you know, which,
So I did have discussion with Brian Page on this item in particular, and this is the item I wanted to discuss a little bit further with you this evening. Other municipalities do use their planning commission as this body. So from my conversations with Mr. Page, from me and Hunt, I believe we're okay going forward in that manner. The rationale, or at least my thinking after talking with Brian about this, the Planning Commission is a body that's already established by the city and has regularly monthly meetings. Whereas if we had just a separate airport Board of Adjustment, they would very rarely meet, if at all, after appointment. So for purposes of consistency and always having a body ready, at the ready, I guess, when they're needed, which an instance would be the next agenda item that we'll discuss with a plat approval. It was our thoughts that since the Planning Commission's always going to be there, they're always going to meet, it would make sense to have them as this body as well in the event that they're needed. But I'll verify with the city attorney on those questions for clarification.
okay. Then the final item that I have is that this particular document appoints a zoning administrator, and the zoning administrator would be the person in my position. And I'm wondering, is it appropriate for someone who sits on the board to also be staff to the board? Seems to me there should
Sure.
be some.
Yep, and the thought is with the zoning administrator, that'll take an effect after the board has completed their duties and dissolves. So, because once the board the JASB is done, done with the ordinance review, we don't have a purpose for the JASB anymore, so that the board, at least this is my understanding, the board will dissolve, and then the zoning administrator would be the community development director of the city, so.
Okay,
But I'll verify that.
you'll verify that?
Yep.
Thank you. So I've kind of gone through the items I had. Anybody else have any things that they would like to bring to the attention of Mr. Stadheim, or that you want further review of or comments on?
I have one question.
Sure.
I'm looking at Exhibit D.
Okay.
And this is a picture that depicts the various zones, the safety zones.
Just gonna pull it up on the overhead here. This one, Mr. Marty?
That's correct. The current existing main runway, the 1533,
Yep,
is 100 feet wide by 101 feet long.
Correct.
I'm assuming that's what that means.
yep,
The proposed crosswind is 120 by 2480.
correct.
The difference in width requirements,
Yeah, it's going from paved to the turf. Apologize, I don't know the exact requirements or why it's wider, but Mr. Page would be better
Okay.
able to explain that. But I believe it's because you're going from a paved, marked, lighted runway
Okay.
to a non-lit turf.
okay. I just caught my runway or attention
Yeah,
because it's
it's-
shorter, but it's wider.
Yep, yep. And I think that's just allows a little more forgiveness on the edges for the tail draggers, especially landing on a turf runway. But I can verify that.
I didn't
Anybody?
see any, excuse me,
Go ahead.
didn't see any, anything in the exhibits, so maybe I missed it, but where the physical layout is, this was all just the zoning of the safety zones, correct? Do you have a picture, or can we have a picture of where the,
I don't have one with me.
okay? In the future,
But
can we
yeah,
have?
yep, we can get one in the future showing the, because the only, we don't have anything that's really zoomed in for the 927 alignment,
I assume all these show at the end of the runways,
Yeah.
but not the existing,
not the existing, yep.
or the proposed physical layout of it.
Yep.
So, Mr. Marty, is this something that you would like to be part of the document, or this is just more for informational purposes?
Both,
Okay.
both. We discussed last time, and you weren't here then.
Right.
I have a better understanding when I physically can see something or
Understood.
have
And
reference
that's-
points.
Yeah, and I'm sure they have it prepared, that we just don't have it as an exhibit, and that's something easy we can add in, so.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody have anything else they would like to ask at this time? Do you anticipate Mr. Page still joining us?
I anticipate, he said he was going to be here, so I don't know if he got stuck in traffic or I haven't heard from him today, so, I'll be able to provide the comments back, and we'll get a revised set out for our January meeting, but I guess in the meantime, if board members do have comments that they want me to pass on, we can certainly accept those at any time, I think would be appropriate prior to the next meeting.
Is-
Generally, I like to get the agenda out about a week before, so I'd need those comments maybe 2 weeks before the next meeting. And of course, I don't have a date, but if you plan on maybe having comments back to me within 3 weeks, we should be able to turn that around. So.
Okay, thank you. Is that acceptable to the members of the board? Okay, good. So, at this time, we aren't being asked to take any action, are we, or?
Correct, Mr. Chair. It was more of a running through the ordinance, receiving those comments. And then one thing I do want to touch on page 35 of the agenda was just the next steps towards airport zoning. So once we get this draft ordinance and exhibits kind of where the board is comfortable, the next steps would be us submitting that to MnDOT for review and comment to the commissioner. So it's, I think in order to keep this moving along on the time frame that we have, I think our hope is that we would have a pretty complete document at the end of our next meeting in January and be able to get that up to the state for review. So just in order to keep this moving along. So that's the only other thing I wanted to touch on within this agenda item today.
Okay. If there is nothing else, I'm going to move on to item 3.2, and I think this is something that you've already referenced. It says, consider establishment of the zoning board of adjustment.
Yep, so Mr. Chair, that was, we briefly touched on that here just a couple of minutes ago. So yeah, it would be our thought process behind that, like I previously stated, was that we would have the planning commission serve as that body. We can certainly wait on this until next meeting if I can do that, checking on those couple items with the city attorney to make sure we're comfortable with that, with the planning commission taking on that role, and I'll report back next month.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. Is that acceptable to members of the board?
It doesn't make no sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next item of business, or is new business, and that is to consider the plat of Oakwood Heights 4th subdivision.
All right, Mr. Chair and board members, we received a request from a property owner out in Milford Township. This is out in Oakwood Heights subdivision. As you can see, we have Lot 1 and Lot 2. The existing property line between these two parcels is actually on the west side of the roadway, which splits Lot 2 by the Oakwood Heights roadway. It's kind of garbled in there, but you can see with the existing property line being the dark blue line, there's a portion of the ditch area on that west side that is not part of the main lawn of Lot 2, which again is divided by that roadway. So the property owner of Lot 1 and Lot 2 have worked together to develop a plat to rectify this situation and move that property line out into the middle of Oakwood Heights of the roadway there. But by doing this, so this area is all in Zone B of runway 33, runway N33. By doing this, this creates a lot size of Lot 2 that is less than 3 acres. And one of the sticking points in Zone B is all the lots have to be 3 acres or greater. We did have conversations with MnDOT Office of Aeronautics, and they are in agreement that this is just a housekeeping cleanup item and would be worthy of creating a variance for lot size 4 to allow the property line to be placed where it should be as opposed to its current location. Since this location is in the area of orderly annexation, it falls within the city's zoning regulations. The New Ulm Planning Commission has reviewed this and approved it, the plat, along with the city council has approved the plat as well, with the condition that the Joint Airport Zoning Board grants the lot size variance request. So with that, that's the information I have for you. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. But yeah, in this circumstance, is creating that lot size smaller than 3 acres, but fundamentally it isn't changing the use of the property. They're not putting additional dwelling units and or anything of the like. So we feel it would be appropriate if the board chooses to approve this, that would be an appropriate action. So any questions?
Yeah, just for clarification purposes, the city extended their subdivision regulations into certain parts of Cottonwood and Milford Township, and that was done back in 2003. And so subdivisions that take place within that area are subject to the city's subdivision regulations and review process.
But there's a requirement to have 3 acres or more, right?
Yep, in Safety Zone B, but yep, so we,
So they're not gonna come at a later date after whoever happens to own lot 2. And there won't be any bad repercussions in the future because of this.
no, I don't see that being the case. We did review this extensively with MnDOT staff and FAA staff, or me and Hunt did this on our behalf. And the agencies were all in agreement this would be an appropriate action. And like I said, fundamentally, it doesn't change the use of that property in either instance, so.
That would be my only concern, is someday in the future, like, hey, this guy's only 2.85 acres.
Yeah, so that would be, now that we're going through the zoning ordinance, we could show that variance location as part of the ordinance. so.
Sure.
Yes.
Once again, Joe, what was the reason for this? You said something about a ditch?
Yeah, it's just a property cleanup. So if we look at,
I'm probably not seeing it because of the lines, but
Yeah.
yeah, we got, so right now the approximate, let's go with this one. The approximate property line between the two parcels is that red dash line.
Yep.
So as you can see, that makes that strip that's technically part of Lot 2
oh, so he's got a little grass strip on that side.
on
of
the other
road.
side of the roadway.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's really just a house cleaning item to rectify
Right.
this issue, yep.
So it's a 33-foot shift
Mm-hmm.
to the center of the paved surface. Any other questions or comments? If not, a motion would be in order then to approve plat as presented.
I move to approve the plat as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to the end of our meeting. Do board members have any other comments or questions? Mr. Stadheim, you're looking at our next meeting as being sometime in January?
Yeah, I'm thinking kind of probably in the latter part of January. I'll have to look at the city schedule and make sure I can get the council chambers reserved. I guess, is there a day that works better for board members? Tuesday might be a little tough because with PUC has a meeting in here in the last Tuesday of the month. But kind of looking at the 24th, the same time. It'd be after Park and Rec Commission again, so at 5 o'clock on the 24th of January.
That is what day of the week?
A Monday.
Monday.
This room is also generally available on Wednesdays.
I'll be at City Engineers Conference on the 26th. We could go, if needed, we could go the week before on the 19th, but my
Yeah.
preference would be to give us an extra week to review, provide comment.
I'm not sure I'll be here on the 19th.
On which one?
The 19th.
Okay. So if the
So does-
24th works for everybody, maybe I'll just pencil that in and confirm that with administration. Okay. We'll try it. We'll shoot for that, and if it doesn't work, we'll find a different date.
So do you want to send an email out to everybody here just to
Yep, I'll do that tomorrow. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, after I check with Lisa, make sure the room's available.
Sure. Okay, I guess that concludes our business today.